Welcome. To start us off, I'm going to give a little background to set the stage for our intervention. Social impact organizations are driven by their missions, which are largely carried out by the employees within the organization who are guided by their leaders. Over time, and for a number of different reasons, missions may drift, may askew from current social perspectives, or may need to refocus as the organization grows or evolves. When there is a misalignment or inconsistency with mission, strategy, or action, employees can become less engaged, suffer from decrease in intrinsic motivation, and ultimately experience turnover. This intervention aims to provide a meaning centered approach to mission crafting that is jointly developed by the employees, the leaders, and other stakeholders to ensure alignment, buy in, and mission accomplishment. To tell you more about the theory behind our intervention, here's Sasha.
Thank you, Emily. So before we move any further, I'm going to go into some of the theory that underlies our proposal. So that includes the unified model of meaning, the work and meaning inventory, the SPIRE and karma models for fostering meaning at work, and then appreciative inquiry as the framework that guides our intervention itself. So starting off with the unified model of meaning, Steger defines meaning as the set of subjective judgments that people make that their lives have significance, comprehension, and purpose. So significance is the feeling that your life matters and is actually worth living. Comprehension involves making sense of events that you experience and weaving that into a sensible narrative for yourself. And purpose involves the unique mission or aim to which you're striving throughout your life and that guides your behavior. But how is this measured at work? So what's typically used is the work and meaning inventory, which was also created by Steger in 2012. It includes three factors, which are positive meaning, meaning making through work, and greater good motivation. And even though the inventory was created in 2012, whereas the unified model in 2018, this inventory does seem to capture all three of those components of significance, purpose, and comprehension, which I've highlighted in the middle here as making sense of your life experience. And here is the inventory itself. So these are all 10 items. So feel free to take this and use it in your work moving forward. And feel free to reference the Steger and colleagues article from 2012 as well for more details on the inventory. But how does this look in organizations itself? Steger proposed to that end the SPIRE and karma model. So the SPIRE involves finding pathways to more meaningful work on the part of the employee, whereas karma involves fostering meaningful work for employees on the part of managers and leaders. So just going into the SPIRE model, strengths involves knowing your strengths and using them in your job. Personalization involves bringing your whole authentic self to work and taking ownership over your work. Integration involves connecting the meaning in your work to the meaning in the rest of your life. Resonance involves connecting your own values and mission to the mission and values of the organization. And then expansion just reflects finding more ways to make a positive impact beyond just yourself. And then moving into the karma model, we have clarity. So organizations foster clarity through their mission and vision statements. Authenticity. So leaders need to be authentic, which includes ethical and honest behavior. Leaders need to role model respect in an effort to create positive and effective relationships in the workplace. Leaders need to convey to their employees that they matter and that they're making a unique contribution and what that is. And then leaders need to provide some level of autonomy to employees and how they do their work. So lastly, I'm going to touch here on the appreciative inquiry framework, which we've learned quite a bit about this semester. And for that reason, I'm not going to go really much in depth at all on this. But just as a refresher, the four phases of this model include discovery, dreaming what might be, designing what that would actually look like, and then implementing that design in the destiny phase and hopefully sustaining the change over time. So next, I'm going to kick it off to Chandandeep to talk about some of the research underlying our proposal.
Thank you to my colleague Sasha for going over the main theories that are the building blocks for our intervention. And now I'll be touching upon the research behind the predictors of meaningful work, why meaningful work is beneficial to us, and why we used our specific research techniques for our intervention. So to start us off, we can increase our meaning at work by focusing on our global meaning, which can be increased, for example, through relationships that researchers show people frequently nominate as their primary source of meaning. Increasing relationship quality is also one aspect of our intervention. Global meaning can be increased through everyday positive experiences, through the values people gain through religion, culture, or their families, through their personal values, and often one ignored yet important source of meaning for everyone is the predictability of the laws of nature and the world around us. Meaning, specifically in the workplace, can be increased through more positive goal-directed behaviors that form an important eudaimonic route to well-being, in that they foster involvement in valued activities, provide opportunities for social support, and lead to a sense of life purpose and meaning. Studies have also found positive correlations between people endorsing their character strengths and the level of meaning they experience at work. Researchers have also found that leaders who are supportive and more aligned with transformational styles have employees who find their work to be more meaningful. Furthermore, meaning can be gained through organizations supporting the higher ideals of employees, for example, through volunteering. And researchers argue that to influence meaningfulness, organizations must influence how people view themselves, for example, with a growth or fixed mindset. Meaningful work is also brought to life when people are able to develop a comprehensive understanding of themselves as integral components of their working environment. On the personal level, meaningful work is fostered by characteristics such as honest appraisal of one's strengths and weaknesses. On the interpersonal level, meaningful work is fostered by respectful relationships or sufficient understanding of one's social and political landscape in the company. On the leadership level, meaningful work can be fostered by clear communication of the values and missions in conjunction with an authentic adaptation of those characteristics by the company's culture and its employees. So some of the benefits of having more meaning at work include positive emotions, positive self-image, satisfaction. Also, through meaningful work, people can learn how to navigate the world, find their niche, express their values, strengths, and aspirations. Meaningful work can bring harmony, if not balance, to the busy life of workers, and is also positively correlated with self-reported supervisor performance ratings. Also, people who have meaningful work are more committed than others, have greater intrinsic motivation, and are less likely to have intentions to quit. They also report lower levels of anxiety, depression, and suicide, and more highly value their work and believe their work to play a more central role in their lives. They also have more clarity in their work, they're more engaged, more agreeable, and also report engaging in more frequent organizational citizenship behavior, meaning they're the ones making the fresh pot of coffee in the morning. So the research techniques that we used include the WAMI inventory, which helps us assess many different aspects of meaningful work, but it's also helpful in that it directly targets the three facets of meaningfulness in the unified model, which is comprehension, significance, and purpose. For example, questions related to meaning making through work help assess one's level of comprehension in life. The Karma Spirit inventories help us assess the components within both the managerial and employee level that are the building blocks of meaningful work, which we can target through our intervention. And to organize our intervention, we use the AI model because it helps in organically fostering significant and positive change at both the organizational and employee level. The McAdams technique that we utilize, which my colleague June will later touch more on, is especially useful for fostering meaning at the individual and interpersonal level, as it involves sharing and discovering personal meaning. And our treatment ends with the process of mission crafting, which allows there to be an increase in the purpose of the entire organization and the meaning that it fosters in its member at all levels. I will now pass on to my colleague June, who will more further elaborate on the intervention that we utilize.
Thank you so much for that, Chad and Dave. And now let us put theory and research into action into an intervention we call an AI-based mission crafting. Our intervention is composed of three phases. It starts with the diagnosis phase, followed by the treatment phase, and then followed by the evaluation phase. So let's start with phase one, diagnosis. just like a good doctor, we don't only want to identify or understand what's going wrong with a client organization, but we also would like to identify what is going right in the client organization. And we're going to do this, through the use of various quantitative tools, such as inventories, like the WAMI inventory, which Sasha has already discussed with you earlier. This will help us, give the global score of the organization in terms of their WAMI, as well as the component scores, such as their scores in positive meaning making through work, as well as the greater good motivation. In addition to the WAMI inventory, we're also going to ask them to fill out, the SPAR and the Karma inventories, which we have actually developed for the purposes of these inventories because the original creator of the SPAR and Karma models have not developed that yet. So in the SPAR inventory, this is really designed for the employees, so that we can measure how they create or find pathways, to more meaningful work at the individual level. And then this is going to be followed, by them, filling out the karma inventories, which comes in two types. The first one is the self-report karma, which is really designed for the leaders and measures the leaders' self-perceptions on how they think they are fostering meaningful work for their followers. And paired, with the C karma or the collateral karma, which measures the followers' perceived ability of their leaders in fostering meaningful work among the followers. So the result of this S karma and C karma, we're going to identify the differences in their scores. So anything 0 and above, will be labeled as positive deviance, because that just means that the followers' perception of their leader's ability to foster meaningful work is actually much better than what the leaders perceive of their ability to foster meaningful work at the workplace. However, if the score is is below 0 or in the negative territory, then flags are going to raise, like orange flag, yellow flag, and red flags, so that we can really identify which areas they need to really improve on and which areas they can further be strengthened. And so after the diagnosis phase, it comes the treatment phase itself, which is the mission crafting itself. I know this is a bit of a busy slide, so let me break it down to you. Since this intervention, the mission crafting, is based in the appreciative inquiry methodology, we're going to use the 4D model of appreciative inquiry, such as the discover stage, dream stage, design stage, as well as a deliver stage. In the discover stage, we're going to use the technique called McAdams technique. And if you are not familiar with the McAdams technique, don't worry, because in our in-class activity, you are actually going to experience how to do a McAdams technique, because that's what we're going to do with you during the class. And so in this stage, we're going to do a lot of interview activities, and that will be done in pairs, in teams, and of course, the departments of the organization. And then after the discovery stage, we go down to the dream stage, which is really a visioning exercise that we're going to facilitate between the leaders and the followers themselves. In this stage, we're going to ask what we call dream questions, such as, what kind of impact do you see the organization have made 10 years from now? And this is where the bulk of our work really comes in, because we're going to have the organization to collect the data, analyze it, synthesize all of those responses, and perform a thematic analysis as well as criteria relevance analysis. And after we have done that, we're going to put that in a report and share the findings, that goes to the design stage of the treatment itself, And in here, after we have presented it to the management, then the management presents it to the employees through a series of town hall meetings that is designed to eventually come up with several draft mission statements, which can now be used as an input to the final stage, which is the deliver stage, wherein we're going to help them synthesize all of these mission statements, finalize one mission statement, and then adopt that mission statement by both the organization and the employees themselves. And all of this is going to happen within a 5-month intervention treatment timeline, starting from doing the overview for leadership and employees, which is really, the diagnosis phase, all the way down, to the destiny through mission statement crafting. However, our intervention doesn't stop there, because the next phase of intervention is the evaluation, which is going to be discussed with you by my colleague, Danny.
Thanks so much, June. We hope you've enjoyed the presentation so far, starting off with the research and theory informing the intervention you just heard about. And we hope you feel the same as we do, that a positive organizational intervention focused on employee well-being, in this case, meaning in the workplace, can be used to inform traditional OD processes, really making the space of positive OD work something meaningful for clients and organizations. Wanted to talk very briefly about the evaluation and how we'll be measuring effectiveness for this intervention. So as far as the approach, we really found that empowerment evaluation was something closely aligned to the intervention itself. In one way, the intervention was really focused on organizational improvement, not just at the same time, how do we touch upon improving employee well-being, but we really want the organization to thrive at the same time. And in doing so, we really are taking this top-down, bottom-up approach and really looking at community ownership and creating an inclusive space and a lot of democratic participation and community knowledge. We're also looking to equalize voices across the organization, regardless as to whether it's the CEO or a secretary. We want everyone's voice and perspective on this matter to be included in that process. And in many ways, this does address social justice issues. So certain groups or certain persons feel that they are left and marginalized without a voice. And I think one of the real salient aspects of empowerment evaluation is this process of capacity building, and how can the evaluation itself really lend itself to that organizational growth. One of the other reasons empowerment evaluation really fits well is this process in the traditional David Fetterman empowerment evaluation stance is the 3 steps of establishing mission, taking stock, and planning for the future. In this case, we're really focusing our efforts on that first aspect, making sure that we get the foundation correct in establishing the mission. The other thing of empowerment evaluation is that the evaluator is not necessarily the subject matter expert, always influencing the ways the evaluator would like to go. So in this case, we are really playing a role of a critical friend as we are helping the organization move through this dynamic intervention. In terms of the design, we'll be using a single group mixed method time series design. And so what that means in terms of our measurement, we are going to be looking at pre-measurement, post-measurement, 6 months after, and then following a year after. The reason for doing so is that we want to make sure that the intervention has time to stick with the organization and has some amount of lasting effect. And then as far as being a mixed method, as it was June explained earlier, we do have several quantitative measurements that we are using to help inform our intervention. First is the WAMI inventory, the SPIRE inventory, and then both versions of the karma inventory, so the S karma and the C karma. We also are going to have a really quick questionnaire on mission alignment. So one of the ways that we are going to do this is we are going to just look at concentric circles in terms of person's perception as to what the organization mission should be versus what it actually is. And then the person's perceived job role in relationship to what that actual mission is. By the end, we'd like these 2 concentric circles to be overlapping as much as possible. But we are really, in terms of the intervention itself, it's a very qualitative process. So we will be using interviews, town halls, and a lot of thematic coding along the way. And now I'm going to hand this over to Emily, who's going to talk to you about the strengths, limitations, and future directions.
Thank you, Danny. So I'll be going over strengths, limitations, and future research. For our strengths, this is a simple and easy to do evidence-based intervention/treatment that is facilitated mainly by the consultants. It is designed to build internal capacity and empowerment, allowing the organization to continue the process on their own as they grow and evolve. Because of this empowerment characteristic, there's a strong alignment between the intervention and the evaluation. The time series design also adds to the evaluation validity. For our limitations, the SPIRE, S-Karma, and C-Karma inventories require a validation study. This intervention may also not be applicable to every social impact organization. There may be other underlying issues that need to be addressed before the intervention can be impactful. Future research. More research is needed in areas where meaning is a large part of the organizational work, where we need to uncover and fully understand the mechanisms involved. And hopefully there will be an opportunity in the future to conduct validation studies on the SPIRE, S-Karma, and C-Karma inventories. But before we go, we'd like to invite you to answer a discussion board question before our class discussion on April 27th and give you the opportunity to win one of 3 $10 Amazon gift cards. Just post an answer to what does meaning in life mean to you? And you can answer in your own words or share your favorite meaning quote from philosophers, scientists, celebrities, etc. Feel free to include a photo of something in your life that illustrates this. But beware, your submission may be included in a short video collage, which we'll share with you so you can post on your social media accounts if you want. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in class.